Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. We are diving into the production side of esports once again. Joining us is Mateo. He is one of the founders and owners of Baggel Productions that does a lot of work in the Brawlhalla space. So without further ado, Mateo, go ahead, introduce yourself, kind of give us the background. What started the passion in esports? How did that take you all the way to being a founder and owner of an esports-based company?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Thanks for having me, Kyle. I appreciate it a lot. It's very cool to be here on Spincast. So Brawlhalla, Baggel Productions, Esports. I go by Twist BH online. That's how most people know me. I started streaming the game Brawlhalla back in 2015, 2016. I was a college student. The game came out of closed beta, and I was like, yo, this game is amazing. It's free to play, and it just feels really good. And I did that on and off until I graduated from college and I moved back to Massachusetts where I am now. I picked up a couple of jobs here and kind of in that post-college looking for work, kind of trying to fill the time, figuring out what you want to do life. I streamed this game every day, just consistently. I'd come home from whatever part-time job I had and I would be like, all right, let's go. Get ranked, start playing the game. And from there, I was around for a while and I managed to be a part of the community, and I reached out at one point to a community group called Brawl League. And I said, hey, look, I really like this game. I'd love to be involved in kind of the esports side of it, which is very grassroots at the time and growing with a lot of developer support. I said, hey, look, I know you guys are doing cool things. Can I be part of that? And they took a look at some of my streams and my videos, and they're like, all right, come on, we can try it. And they brought me on as a community caster. And I was like, cool, I don't know enough about this game, but I will say words fast, confidently, and, we'll take it from there. And at that point, that's kind of where I lived. I was either doing the production, I was being a streamer, which at the time was very much like, here's a scene with two people cut out into like camera inserts, and then here's the game with an overlay, like very basic, very simple. And it was very, honestly, kind of a boring job. You just sit there for 4 hours, 5 hours being like, button press, button press. Button press. Not very much different from what I do now, but maybe a little simpler. And so I kind of bounced back and forth between doing casting and commentary and the production side of things. And I did that for a while with this group, Brawl League. And at one point in 2017, I want to say, one of the developers of the game reached out to me and said, hey, look, we're doing our seasonal championship this weekend. Do you think you can come down to Georgia and cast it for us? And I said, yeah, of course I can do that. I mean, it's August. I'm like quasi-employed. All right, why not? Yeah. And I was like, so like, am I flying? What's the deal? I was like, oh, I was hoping you could drive. It's not that far, right? I live in Massachusetts. I was green back then, and I was also really excited. And I was like, this is a great opportunity. So I said, absolutely, I can drive. Fortunate enough to have my own car. Jumped in my car. Thursday night, left, drove straight just by myself, 21 hours, got there Friday evening, prepped for the tournament Friday evening, woke up Saturday, did my blocks all day Saturday, woke up Sunday, did my blocks all day Sunday, and then I left and drove straight back to Massachusetts another 21, 22 hours, only stopping for like bathroom breaks and gas.
Yeah.
I swore I would never do that drive again, but the experience was worth it 100%. And I think not even just the experience of doing the commentary, but making those connections at the time was very helpful. Yeah. And it was fun. Like, frankly, it's a lot of fun. And so from there, that was 2017. We roll into 2018. I kind of get absorbed into Brawl League as kind of a more top level position as an admin. And I'm starting to run a lot more of the esports streams that they're doing. A big motivation for me at the time was I'm competitive. And with the production side of things, I looked at what was being done in the game and I said to myself, I bet I can do more with less. And so I came in and I did my research and I said, hey, look, let's try this and this and this. And we came in and we brought in replays. We brought in some more dynamic images and we kind of just like spruced up the show a little bit. And so for 2018, we only did online tournaments. So including that was a month-long tournament series, which was a pretty cool success to see, and then pretty much like monthly majors. And the nice thing about this game, Brawlhalla in general in the community, is that the developers support it. And this is something that I can't ever understate. It's so important that the people who make the game are here for esports. FOTA in general. He's the director of esports. He's the man. They put up money for community tournaments. It's just $100, but if you're a community organizer and you have something well put together, you send them an email. There's your prize money, just like that. You don't have to worry about getting sponsorships. You don't have to worry about anything like that. You have support. And so as this larger community group at the time, we had that support. And so we were running these tournaments. I think we'd get $1,000 for the prize pool. And then these tournaments would count in the circuit or whatever the point system was at the time. It's changed a few times. And so that was honestly a lot of fun. And we did that in 2018. Kind of the core group of us who would eventually go on to become Baggel. So every year there's a world championship for Brawlhalla. We call it BCX. And every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so for 2018, we were asked to make the graphics package. So the overlay, the stinger, all of that other elements. And so we worked together really closely to kind of build this out for the people who were actually doing the production on site, which was wild. It's wild. 2018. Listen, yeah. So 2018, we drove down. I mean, to be honest, it's like it's kind of blurred together. It's been so much.
Like that week was a wild week.
It is every year. So we make it, and I actually think that I'm not there for 2017, but I'm there for 2018. And we drive down, we're in the office in Georgia, and we're still working on graphics the day before, kind of like hustling through it and really trying to get this, adding in some like sparkles and some like moving elements and really trying to make things as pretty as we can and as elegant as we can. We get there and we implement it and it goes off and it works really well. The stuff looks good. And, we're not technically working the event, but V, who runs and owns Baggel with me, he did photography for the event. And then I was doing some videography for the event, kind of unofficially as kind of just like a community person. And that went really well. And at that point, after one of those days, we were at the bar. We went to FOTA. We went to the head of esports and we said, "Hey, look, we'd love to do this for you in person next year. I think we know the game. We're from the game. We love the game. We know the players. Like, let us do more for you." And that kind of conversation went on for a little while. And eventually they said, yes, we can do it.
It's fantastic.
So we took the three of us, myself, V, who was our art director, photography. He kind of owns that vertical. And Left Stick Down, who kind of owns the business vertical a little bit. And he's kind of honestly, like our manager. He herds the cats. Like he herds the two of us and all of that. I couldn't do it without him. And we created Baggel. And we had a little bit of leftover from Brawl League and some stuff from an old Patreon and some of our own money. And we just kind of threw it all together and we bought equipment, eBay, a lot of stuff off of eBay that like did or did not work. And our first event was in February, which was final round down in Georgia. Fun event. I think just about everything that could have gone wrong went wrong that event. Our capture card has 8 inputs/outputs. 4 of them died on the second day. Couldn't never get them back. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world because we got it running. We kept most of the jank behind the scenes. And then from that point on, every single LAN after that was like, what can we do better? We added in headsets, wireless headsets for communication. We added in B-roll of the city. We added in statistics. We added in like animated stingers and all this other sort of stuff. And last year we did something like 57, 60, no, I think it was 63 tournaments in 52 weekends, 49 weekends, something crazy like that, where
that's beyond crazy.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, we went hard and we said yes. And we just said yes to it. And this year we're in a much better position. We are hiring more staff. Our budget has increased. We have a really cool opportunity where we're starting to work with some other bigger companies at the same time, production companies, to make events for Brawlhalla. And yeah, so that's kind of like a pretty long story, kind of like short. I dropped a lot of stuff in there. There's been a lot of people who have helped get us to this point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's an incredible story. I was talking about this before the recording started, but I love seeing those success stories within the esports sphere because so many people try, so many people don't find that long-term success. But I always love it. Owner of your own company, successful production. You said 60 some in 49 weekends last year. It's absolutely. I mean, business is booming at that point. Hopefully, COVID doesn't affect you too much for the land side. Hopefully, things can start to pick up. Safely, but hopefully that does come back because we all want land events. They're the best.
They're the best.
So a lot of the audience out there, they kind of know what esports is. They want to learn more though. It's like what goes behind the scenes. So talk us through like a typical run of show for production for what you do with Brawlhalla specifically, right?
Sure. So there's a lot of components, and it changes if it's an online event as opposed to an offline event. And I think I'll talk mostly about online events right now, just because that's the world that we live in with COVID-19.
For sure.
Up until now, all of our lands have been canceled. Unfortunately, we're kind of banking that the World Championship in November can still happen. Please. But the majority of what we're doing right now is all online. So leading up to it, I think there's a couple of steps. So we have our dates for the year already. We know generally what it's going to be, and we know ahead of time if it's going to be a sponsored tournament, a seasonal championship. So we do a spring, summer, winter, and autumn championship tournament. Or we do kind of tournaments in between, which would be this year, there are LAN tournaments just moved to online. So Combo Breaker was one, we moved that online. Low Tier City is coming up, we moved that online, so on and so forth. So we know those dates ahead of time, and generally we know what it is. So V, who's our art director and owns that vertical, he comes up with the design for the tournament, and he kind of liaisons with some community artists to come up with kind of a key graphic. And I'll send you some of these graphics so you can have those for the show if that's helpful. And everything centers around that key graphic. So it'll be an illustration of the characters in the game doing something that is thematically linked to the tournament. And from there, we derive a color scheme for the tournament, we derive a stinger for the tournament, and the rest of the graphics package. Now, for a lot of the elements, we have kind of a style guide almost, and we adhere to that style guide depending on the tournament. So all the seasonals, they have the same shape. They're just essentially reskinned for that seasonal. So summer is a little orangey, winter is blue for snow and cold. Autumn is also orangey, but like a different you get the point. Spring is green.
Very seasonal. Yep.
So that's where we start. And about 2 weeks out from the start of the tournament, V will come to me and say, hey, look, all of the graphics you need are in our shared drive. We have a Google Drive where we kind of link everything together. I say, great. And I take that, and my program that I use is vMix. It's made by an Australian company. It's pricey if your budget is free. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at like broadcast hardware and broadcast solutions, it's a drop in the bucket. It's real cheap, and what you get from it is honestly, I think, incredible. And so I'll take that, what V gives me, and I'll go ahead and build that out in vMix. And I'll make like a working prototype of the show. Usually I base it off of the show before, because a lot of these elements repeat.
They transfer very well. Yeah.
Yes. Now at the same time, David, Left Stick Down, is coordinating with our talent, making sure that they have a schedule, that they know when to come on. Our blocks are typically between an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And we try, we have some points within a bracket that are natural stopping and swapping points. So we kind of have that flexibility there. That's it. We'll do a tech run, just kind of the three of us occasionally, just to make sure everything is running. And if we're introducing anything new, we've got that going. And then the weekend of the show, Saturday, this year, tournaments start at 4 p.m. Well, the stream starts at 4 p.m. For North America. And we'll do North America, Australia, and Southeast Asia on Saturday, back to back. And then on Sunday, we'll do Europe and then South America, again, back to back. So it ends up being about a 20 to 30 hour work schedule over the weekend. We'll usually be working before 4 o'clock, of course, but we hit 4 o'clock. I have the talent in remotely. I'm bringing them in just through a native function within my program that lets me kind of isolate their video and audio and does an automatic mix minus. It's amazing. And they each have their own setup. They each have nice cameras, nice microphones, whatever, the usual that you have to be remote here. And then from there, all of our talent has been doing this enough. We'll take them in. They'll introduce the show. they'll do a rundown of the bracket, and we'll hit gameplay, and they'll talk about the gameplay. And at that point, we do a very organic flow. So a lot of bigger productions, I think, especially at LAN, will have a very specific run of show. These things are happening at this time, X, Y, and Z, which I think is fabulous and definitely support. But for some of these online things, we end up doing it organically. We have a very good relationship with our talent. So if they call for something or they want something, we usually have it ready, whether it's a bracket, whether it's a recap, a replay, whatever, slow motion, whatever. We have it. We do it that way. And that's kind of how we go. That's our run of show. And we'll just be backstage in a Discord channel with our moderators, with our bracket admins and that sort of thing. And we'll just be working together to make sure that everything is flowing smoothly as much as you can.
Yeah, 100%. Love to see that, like that snapshot overview of really all the complexity and the breadth and the depth of what goes into an event, right? So many people think, oh, you just hit the stream on button, you get in a Discord call with the casters, and then you just go. It's like, no, you do that, the show won't look that good for sure. So yeah, love to see, you really encapsulating that breadth and depth of your events. Unfortunately, we are kind of running out of time here. I think we have time for one or two more questions. Kind of like with all your experience, and I love to hit on this point with people like yourself that have, 4, 5, 6 years in the space. Where do you think, or what do you think is most needed in the esports in general, right? So, obviously on the production for event side, what's that one thing that pops in your head like, wow, if we had this, or if esports grew to, absorb or change or improvise this aspect for event production or just events in general, that would really springboard it to become, massive in its own right, but then also like mainstream and like widely accepted, watched, viewed, etc. So what is that one thing, kind of looking towards the future, that you hope comes to fruition that would just really just make everything go boom?
It's a really good question. I see viewership, I think, and the ways we access viewership as kind of a crucial component that I think things are still being figured out on. Twitch is great. YouTube is honestly like a pretty decent streaming platform. Most people don't use it, but like it's not bad. It's just YouTube. But I'd love to see esports make its way, and it's begun to, I think, but more into the avenues that we see traditional sports. So being on ESPN already is dope. Like that's awesome. But, I would love to be able to go to a bar, get a drink, and watch a StarCraft tournament, like I would love to go to a watch party and just hang out with people in a public space, right? Where like that's just accepted and acknowledged and like, it happening. And I think we see it happen, it happened a little bit with Overwatch League, I think especially towards the beginning. And like, it does happen with certain events depending on where you are. But my experience has been finding that is more rare than not. And I just like, how cool would it be to go into a bar and it's just like StarCraft or Brawlhalla or CSGO or whatever, Melee on the TVs there, and people are just chilling, having a drink and eating some food. That would be, that would be so good. It would be so good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is honestly one of my visions or dreams. You see it in some kind of dedicated spaces that are esports, very centric bars, but like, it's widely spread that you go into a bar and there's all the sports on, right? Especially like, we have a bar down here, Hickory Tavern, local to the Southeast kind of region, Charlotte, where we're based out of. They have probably 40 TVs, right? And there is every single traditional sport you can think of: golf, football, volleyball, baseball, basketball, on, right? Well, there's no esports, right? And esports, I think, is that it is the same level of competitiveness, and I can't wait to see that happening, because like you said, sitting down after a LAN tournament and then watching, LCS or, a pro league or a different game, it's just phenomenal. Absolutely can't wait to see that. My last question for you before we do wrap up is a piece of advice for our viewers, right? A lot of this is really dedicated for high schoolers and then their parents to like learn more about what esports looks like from that holistic fashion, right? It's a lot more than just playing video games competitively, a whole bunch more, right? You've spoken to it this entire time. So what's that piece of advice to help them improve, whether that's their performance or play, or, seeking a particular job in production or any kind of parallel industry that, closely relates to esports? What advice would you give to them to help them, have the same outcome as you did in that successful storyline and getting your own, being a founder and owner of your own company?
I think I have 2 or 3 things for this one. The first one is say yes. opportunities. This is a field where a lot of people want to be in it, and there's not a lot of opportunity, I think, in a lot of avenues. I think you said it earlier, right? Pro leagues are pretty small. Getting into them can be pretty tough. When I'm looking at people to hire, if I'm pulling you from a volunteer group, I'm going to hire you if you say yes to a lot of things and you do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the flip side of that I think is so important and crucial is don't let yourself be taken advantage of, right? So say yes, but protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sign a contract without knowing what it means. Don't be afraid to push back politely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. It's taking me X amount of hours. Do you think I could be compensated for that? Or do you think that we can talk about compensation? I think if you approach it professionally and politely, I think that's going to help you out. No one's going to get anywhere, and this field won't go anywhere if people aren't getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
And if people are only being taken advantage of. And that's something that I worry about a lot, frankly, for people stepping into the field is, yes, say yes, get involved, show up when you say yes, and do a good job, and like be there.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be afraid to push back and say, hey, look, my time is value, right? My time is worth something. I am worth something.
Mm-hmm.
And just when you say that, frame it in a way that is objective. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. It's taking me this long. I think I'm adding something to whatever it is I'm doing, if on the production side of things, whatever that is. And I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece of that too is get involved with your locals. Even if it's a game you don't love, Smash Brothers has locals in every city ever in this country, in the United States, and like across the world. Like, get involved. It doesn't have to be TO a tournament. Be someone who's just volunteering to help. That's going to help get your name out there and make those connections.
Mm-hmm.
And the final thing, which isn't directly about esports, but there's an article by Penny Arcade, by Gabe from Penny Arcade from 2015. I read this back in 2015 and I was like, this is awesome. And it's about, he went and spoke to the PTA about video games in general.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the article, it goes on to explain, like, I talked about video games have a rating, and video games can be creative, and video games can have stories, and video games can be outlets for X, Y, and Z. And, there's all of this value within a video game. And the article is a little older now. It's 5 years old. And I'm sure some things in there, if I went back and read it, I wouldn't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a phenomenal read just to say, like, and to like build awareness that there are so many facets, like you've said, to esports. And if you expand that out to video games in general, and it's easy to pigeonhole yourself to be like, this is one thing, but the field is so broad and there's so much opportunity if you know where to look and if you know how to approach it. And if you think about it, like you're saying, holistically, I think there's just so much value there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I can't wait until it really does become mainstream where, when, like, for example, for myself, when people ask me, what do you do? What field do you work in? And I say esports, and they automatically respond with, oh, what game do you play? It's like, no, not so much, right? Esports is an entire industry. And once that, very quick response kind of starts to, fade away, I think that's going to be a really great marker of success. So everyone realizes, hey, esports isn't just playing games, right? I don't want to make that sound bad. Without the game, we wouldn't be here in the esports fashion. But at the same time, without people like in your company like you, those games wouldn't look near as good as they do from that event perspective. So it's like that holistic, everyone has to put in their share and then go from there. Absolutely great advice, though. I really loved how you kind of hit on, like, never work for free. Always have something out of it, right? Whether that's money or whether that's like a direct path to a successful job, whether a job that does pay, that can pay the bills, and so on and so forth. Great internship with a great company that leads to opportunities with another company, so on and so forth. Absolutely hit it on the head there. So unfortunately, we are out of time. Absolutely fantastic discussion. I wish we had more time, but we are running out. So real quick, Mateo, go ahead, plug yourself, plug your company. Tell us where we can find out more about you online, social medias, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at ToastBH. You can find my company, Baggel Productions. If you go to baggelproductions.com, that's one place. I think our Twitter handle, it's not Baggel Productions, or it's Baggel HQ. Is there a hyphen? Baggel HQ, no hyphen, no underscore is our Twitter. We do have an Instagram account. I haven't looked at it in honestly 6 months, but I'm sure there's cool stuff on there. V usually handles that. It's probably at Baggel Productions on Instagram as well. And if you haven't checked out Brawlhalla, it's free to play. It's on every platform, including your phone. And I just got to give a shout out to that because it's nuts. And esports happens basically every month. Free entry. You don't got to be good at the game. You can just jump on in. I think it's a lot of fun. So check out Brawlhalla. Check us out at Baggel HQ on Twitter. I'm ToastBH. And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a really fun time.
Yeah, absolutely. I love these little mini series episodes because we really get to expand, different perspectives and approaches at esports, which at the end of the day grows the industry, and that makes me happy in the long run for sure. I'm sure it makes everyone else happy as well to see the industry we love and are passionate about continuously grow to become the global phenomenon that it's destined to be. But yeah, to all the listeners, thanks for staying the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy right now with the current health pandemic. Make sure you take care of yourself and your loved ones, and ultimately, stay plugged in.